Hello, I'm Chef Julia Dunaway, and today I'm going to be making some peach cobbler with no sugar, no dairy, no fat, and I think you'll really like it. I'm not wearing my chef coat because it's 100 degrees here in Azle, Texas. Way too hot to wear anything that covered up, and I'm going to be going outside as soon as I'm done with this. So here we go. First of all, we have peaches now here in Texas. They are available to us. Now I know some places don't have peaches, so I've picked up a lot of peaches, and we're going to be using fresh peaches. I'm going to show you how I peeled them here in just a minute. And then I have a lot of ingredients that I'll be using over here, which are whole grain flour. Everything is sweetened with dates, no sugar. And I'm going to be using some soy milk, plant milk, instead of dairy milk. And a lot of just, pretty typical ingredients. So I think you'll find that it's a very easy recipe to make. And I was really surprised at how much my husband enjoyed it. Because, as you know, he doesn't eat all plant-based. He's getting better. But because of that, a lot of times when I make desserts, he's kind of not a big fan. So he really liked this one. All right, so how do you deal with peaches? Well, peaches have, very thick skins, hard to peel. And the trick to peeling them, I have a pot of water over here. I'm done with it. I did it before I came on. I just boiled water, turned it down to low, and I dumped all the peaches in the water. After I turned it down, it wasn't boiling hot. I turned it down to simmer. I put them in there for 30 seconds and then lifted them out and put them in ice water. And then once they were in ice water, they didn't cook because you don't want them to start cooking because they'll get all mushy. And then, I'm going to use this bowl in a minute, I was able to then, take them out and peel them. So this is how easy they peel once they've been in this water bath. I just left one to show you that the peel just kind of slides right off. Otherwise, my other method for dealing with the peach skins was to cut it off with a knife. And see how these big pieces come off? And when you cut it with a knife, what happens is it tends to kind of take off the flesh of the peach as well. And that's not good because then you lose a lot of your peach flesh when you do that. So that's a better way to preserve as much of the peach as possible. So then you have the job of cutting the peaches into slices. And I find it's easy to just take the peach and cut it in half, kind of like an avocado. And this is the kind of peach, like a freestone, I guess you could call it, where the stone comes out. But my daughter-in-law was telling me that she had a peach and she couldn't get the pits out. And I think that's because some peaches are clean peaches and the peaches cling to the pit. Well, then it's almost impossible to get them out. So I'm just going to slice the peach into not very thick slices. I think they're like ½ an inch. I don't like them too thick. I like them when they kind of cook down, but you can kind of see how beautiful these peach slices are. And then I'm just going to lay them in my dish. So I'll do this one and then I'm going to finish them up before I come back. But you just kind of cut them into slices, and then once they're cut into the slices, you can move them into your baking dish and lay them down. They don't have to be perfect because it's a cobbler. Cobblers are not a work of art because the peaches are going to be covered up like that. The peaches are all going to be covered up. This one's not laying down very flat, so guess what? I'll have to sample it. So good. These peaches are so sweet. When you get your peaches, if they're hard as a rock, let them sit out for 2 or 3 days until they're soft. They should just kind of yield to slightest pressure. You don't want to dent them in, then they're too soft. And when peaches ripen too much, they start getting these little brown spots. Well, then they're overripe. So peaches are kind of like avocados. There's a delicate balance between a ripe peach and a ripe avocado. A day can make a big difference. As soon as you feel like they're ripe, put them in the refrigerator. They'll stop ripening. So I got these yesterday at the farmer's market, and they weren't quite ripe, but then by yesterday evening, they softened quite a bit. So I stuck them in the refrigerator last night, and they're perfect. So I'm going to finish slicing the rest of them, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, look at the peaches. peaches. They're beautiful. It didn't take long, and there are a lot of them. It's about 1.5 pounds of sliced peaches. So I think that started with about 4 pounds of peaches, but then, you know, the skins come off, the pits take up some weight. So you start out with more peaches than 1.5 pounds because once they're sliced, it's a lot less. So now we're gonna do the dry ingredients. I've got them all measured out. I've got 2/3 of a cup of whole wheat pastry flour. I've got 1/3 of a cup of almond flour, 1/3 of a cup of oat flour. And then I've already got everything measured out to make it easy. A little 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, or baking powder, sorry, baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and the recipe will be in the show notes, so don't worry if you can't follow me. And then a teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/2 cup of date sugar. Date sugar looks like this. It's just dehydrated dates, organic, dried, ground dates. I like to use dates for everything. I don't use sugar anymore. I just find that I've gotten used to the taste of date sweetened food. It doesn't have any refined sugar. It doesn't make you crave sugar. It's just all around a great way to quit using sugar. And the flour, I do use a whole wheat pastry flour, and Bob's Red Mill is one I can find. And it's different from whole wheat flour, so if you try to substitute whole wheat flour thinking it's the same thing, whole wheat flour can be a lot heavier. So just be aware that it's not the same thing. Okay, so now we're gonna put our wet ingredients in here. 1.5 cups of soy milk. You can use any plant milk. I just like this organic soy milk that I get from my grocery store. It's the one I use for my smoothies. And then it has a teaspoon of vanilla. And I use an organic pure vanilla from McCormick. And then there's a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And we're going to put in our chopped up dates. So I've taken about 7 of these very large Medjool dates. I love these. Take the pits out. And I get them from the date people. They have the best dates. These are their wet pack dates, and they're so wonderful, fresh tasting. It's real hard to get their stuff, so they don't have a way to order online. You have to call them. It's very old school. So let me make sure I have everything. I have the dates, about 1 cup, 1.5 cups of soy milk, apple cider vinegar, vanilla, and then we're gonna blitz this in the food processor or the blender very quickly. Sorry about the noise, but that's part of the process. And then all we're gonna do is we're gonna pour this wet mixture into our dry ingredients. Very simple. I'm sure you've seen this a million times. Add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, your typical instructions. So I'm going to scoop this out of here, try to get as much as I can. All right, then we're just gonna mix this up. And this is also important. Don't over mix this. Mix it really lightly. Mainly what you want to do is you just want to get the dry and the wet ingredients combined. Over mixing creates a lot of gluten. And when people have really tough dough, like tough cakes, tough cookies, tough baked goods, a lot of times it's because they thought they were being careful by mixing their dough together or their cake mix together or whatever, but they just mixed it to death. That's why when you make a cake in the old-fashioned way, you put in the flour at the very end, but they would just kind of say fold it in because they don't want you to create all this gluten. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to just take dollops. This is the easiest way to do it, is to just take big spoonfuls and just put them over the top to cover the whole top. And what's going to happen is this batter is going to cook and it's going to rise up just like cake batter, and it's going to create this really nice topping for your cobbler. So good. I made this with blueberries yesterday to test this new batter, and we couldn't get enough of that. So you can make this with any fruit. The one I've tried it with besides peaches is blueberries. All right, now what I've done is I've gotten too much over here and not enough over here. Well, that's not a big deal. What we can do is we'll spread it around. But it's a lot easier to spread when you've dolloped it like that than if you just try to pour it on there, because then it tends to get too big in the middle, and you don't want a great big cluster in the middle. You want it to be kind of even all around. So now we have that on there. It looks perfect. And I'm going to sprinkle some chopped almonds on here. These were whole almonds from Masa Organics. And since I like peaches with almonds, I think a little crunch, because I did that on my blueberry cobbler. I put some walnuts on it, and everybody said, ooh, that makes it taste even better. They liked it to begin with, but the walnuts just made it taste even better. So then all we have to do is get this in the 350-degree oven for 40 minutes. I know that may sound like a lot, but 40 minutes is the right amount of time, because we want the batter close to the fruit to be cooked. If you think it looks done and you even toothpick test it and say, oh, it's done, trust me, do it 40 minutes, because if the batter is raw tasting by the fruit, you won't really enjoy it. So we'll be back when it's done and we'll test it out. Okay, I went to get it out of the oven at 40 minutes and it wasn't done. So I put it back in for about 10 more minutes, because I guess my peaches are extra juicy. So it ended up taking longer than I thought, but that's something for you to think about. If I say normally it's 40 minutes and your fruit tends to be on the very, very wet side, it could end up taking longer. So just be aware of that. And it's perfect now, but what you don't want to see on your topping is you don't want to see a bunch of undercooked dough. So the underside of the dough should look like it's cooked dough. So there's an example. It's soft because it was resting on top of a liquid peach, but it's not runny like wet dough. So just be aware of that, because that will ruin your cobbler if it's all wet. Just keep putting it back in the oven and check it. You know, it's not going to hurt anything to put it back in. So the only thing that could improve this delicious peach cobbler, which I know it's good because I've made it before, but I'll test it again just so you can see. It's so good with the almonds. What we could do to make it even better is I made some banana, pineapple, orange sorbet in my Ninja Creamy, which is a new gadget that I got that I've been testing. And if we put a little bit of this ice cream, all fruit ice cream, on top of our already good cobbler, now we have a fruit explosion. We've got the ice cream, the peaches, the topping. You guys have got to make this. And I'm going to be doing some more stuff with the Ninja Creamy, because I just got one and I'm experimenting with it, so I'll let you know about that. So I hope you make the peach cobbler or the blueberry cobbler. I'll post the recipe in the show notes. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be doing more of these videos. I try to do one every week, and I will definitely keep doing them. So thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.